Hi, Sandra here from Creating Spain, and today I'm doing another card using up leftovers. Case in point are these little flowers and things that I've cut out. Now, none of them take more than a couple of inches square of card or paper, whatever it is that you have, but they make some very, very pretty embellishments. So I've got a few of those just cut out, and I'm going to put them to one side. I have my sentiment stamped and embossed with gold embossing powder. This is Have the Best Day. So you could use this type of sentiment for many different occasions. And in this instance, all I've done is I've put it onto black paper. It's probably about 100 GSM. And I've just cut around it manually with a pair of scissors. I have my card base, which is a regular A2 card, I think you call it in the States, but basically it is an A5 piece of card folded in half. I have my front panel, which is a nice, fairly heavy, very stiff grey card, and I have cut that down a little bit. If I put this to the top left corner, you can see how much I've taken off. So I've just made it a little bit smaller than my card front. And again, I did this by eyeballing it and cutting it on a manual cutter. I didn't use my cutting machine to do it. Now, I do have this piece which is cut, and it was cut from a piece of leftover card. And I just cut it manually with a craft knife. I just wanted wavy lines, so that's all I did. And now I want to put this, I want to actually glue this so that it's at an angle and it goes from one side to the bottom of the card across a diagonal. So that's how I actually want to put it. So what I'm going to do is just find myself a pencil and draw a faint line following that curve, making sure that I've got it in the right place there and at the bottom, and a faint line there. You're not going to see that line, even if you never rub it out, you're not going to see it. It is very faint. And so I'm going to put some glue in between those lines to stick my piece of card on. Right, I've done my gluing, and I just need to use those guidelines to get my piece of a decorative card where I want it and press that down. Now, with a lot of gluing, it's often the case less is more. Don't overdo the glue. If you've got a lot of glue, it will slide around and it won't dry so fast, so you do want to be careful with it. And now all I have to do is to cut off these extra pieces. Now I'm going to use a metal ruler, and I would always advise using a metal rule, because if you use a plastic one, the chances are you will dig into the side of it. And I'm just going to use a craft knife to cut off that excess. One piece. Slightly shaved my grey card, but it really doesn't matter. It wasn't going to be that much of it. So I'll put my blade to the right hand side of the grey card, then put my ruler up to the blade. That's the best way of doing it. I don't always bother, but that is the best way to do it. And then a couple of strokes down here, and that's it. Okay. So I now have my nice bright pink glitter card on my grey card, and that's where I want it to be. Now the next thing I want to do is to actually put my sentiment in. Normally I put this in almost as an afterthought, but this time I actually did think about where the sentiment was going to go first. Most unusual for me. Frequently I make cards, but I don't actually know who's going to get them or for what occasion it's going to be, so I frequently don't put a sentiment on. But in this particular case, it's an all-purpose sentiment, and I can choose the occasion at a later point. There we go. Now you notice with this one, I haven't raised it on foam or anything like that. I want this particular part of the card to be flat because the rest of it is going to have a dimension. Now, I want to put my card onto the front of the base card because when I've completed this, it's going to have multi-dimensions on the front of it. So I need to put this onto my base before I go any further. And you can use glue or double-sided tape, whichever you prefer. I hate using double-sided tape for this because I inevitably end up getting it in the wrong place. If you do use a glue though, again, don't use too much glue and make sure it's one that doesn't make your card warp. And this gives you a little bit of chance to line things up, whereas the tape, once you put the tape down, that's it, it's stuck. You're not going to get any chance for any correction anywhere. So that's that little bit done. Now you see I got a little snag there where I trimmed that, but since I'm planning on putting an embellishment there, it really doesn't matter. And now I can just play around with these shapes that I've made. Now I've cut these out in foil card, and some of them, like this one, are extremely, extremely delicate. Another one, they're not quite so delicate. But basically I've got some butterflies, some leaves, some flowers in different colours of foiled card. And you can, if you want to, with this particular design, actually encourage the dimensions on this by lifting up various sections. Okay, so you don't have to have it lifted up, but you can if you want to. And I think it's particularly nice to have the centres lifted. So just play around with these until you get the desired effect. And in fact, what I think I might do is see if I can get rid of that, because I think maybe that's not going to be a very good place to have an embellishment. So let's see how accurately I can do this. And I've put a piece of card underneath so that I don't go through anything else. That's the only reason for that. But I do want to just trim that ever so slightly, I think. And hopefully yeah, that's done. Okay. There. That's better. Okay, so just need to play around and find out what works in the way of decorating. And this is rather a more subtle effect than, for example, sort of diamante gems. Because I've got those foil cutouts, I thought it was a nice idea to go a little more subtly on the other embellishments. And I'm just putting these on pretty much at random. Okay, now the only other thing that I want to do, and this is a little bit of bling, I want to put a strip of diamante down my butterfly. So I'm just going to take the whole strip up It would help if I hadn't managed to turn it back on itself. That's always a danger holding these things. And just tear it off there. So that's it, card done, and I hope you like it. I will be leaving a link for the file for these cutouts, so feel free to download that and to use those.